this meeting of the Oskaloosa City Council to order. Today is January 5th, 2015. For those who are watching this live broadcast, I do want to remind folks that we do have a snow emergency declaration that will be effective at midnight tonight. So it's a good time to be thinking about getting your car off the streets if you have a park there. With that in mind, would you please rise with me for the invocation? Heavenly Father, as we assemble here tonight, we thank you for the blessing we have of being part of this community together in Oskaloosa. We recognize your blessing comes with responsibility, and so our prayer is that each of us would be granted a humble spirit in all our deliberations, giving true consideration to the trust that citizens have given us. Please grant us wisdom and honesty, integrity and high purpose, and may the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Caligari.
Here.
Jimenez.
Here.
Moore. Here. Van Zetten. Versteeg.
Here.
Walling.
Here.
Yates.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the opportunity for community comments. This is an item reserved to receive comments from the community for concerns, whether or not they're included on the current agenda. The community is encouraged to come and speak before the mayor and city council, asked to keep statements brief. Time shall be limited to no more than 3 minutes. So any questions that are to be asked of city staff, council members, or the mayor, we ask that those be asked prior to speaking to the full council, so that way concerns can be properly researched and perhaps even answered away from the council meeting. Comments are to be directed to the mayor and city council only. Is there anyone who would care to speak at this time? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium. Name and address, please.
Matt Cargill. 2000 Burlington Road, Oskaloosa. I'm the Oskaloosa High School art teacher and Fine Arts and Cultural Events of the Mahaska County Vice President. I'm also a public artist, and I came out tonight because I understand there's a vote coming up on streetscape and that kind of thing, and So I wanted to make some comments on that. Streetscape improvements provide the infrastructure for great things to happen. It affects attitudes of citizens and attracts visitors. Without the city creating the stage, the streetscape, the stage becomes a stage for everybody. No other entity, public or private, can make things happen because the stage does not exist. Streetscape is the curb appeal of a community, and part of a city's job is to create a place where people and businesses want to be so they can thrive. As an artist, I learned a long time ago that doing a job good enough isn't good enough. Getting it done isn't good enough. Artists must always strive to be amazing and special. I believe it's time for Oskaloosa to begin the process of becoming even more special and do everything with the intent of becoming amazing. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would care to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 5 is the consent agenda. These are all items that are routine in nature. No particular discussion is anticipated. So minutes and reports from city council meetings, board commission minutes, various renewal applications for liquor licenses, payment of claims, and then I do want to draw your attention that there is a resolution scheduling a time for a hearing considering the matter of levying a special assessment against 2 private properties for sidewalk replacement that the city did. And then also in there is the appointment of Mark Tennyson to the Historic Preservation Commission. Do we have a motion for approval? Second. Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Versteeg. Yes. Walling.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Caligari.
Yes.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Moving on to item 6. This is time for announcement of vacancies that we have on various boards and commissions. We have 5 of them here. First is the Airport Commission. There's a vacancy to fill upon appointment for an unexpired term ending on December 31st of 2015. It's a 5-member board that typically meets the first Monday of the month. We have 4 males currently serving with 1 vacancy. The Building Code Board of Appeals, we have 1 vacancy to fill, and that's upon appointment to serve at the pleasure of the mayor. This is a 5-member board that meets as needed. Currently 3 males and 1 female serving, 1 vacancy. The third is the Board of Adjustment. 1 vacancy to fill upon appointment for an unexpired term ending on December 31st of 2016. It's a 5-member board that typically meets as needed on the 4th Tuesday of the month. 4 males are serving with 1 vacancy. Fourth is the Housing Trust Fund Committee. There's 1 at-large member that serves a 3-year term ending on January 31st of 2018. There are 5 at-large members on the committee that typically meet every other month. 3 females and 2 males are currently serving. And then finally, the Water Board. We have a vacancy to fill upon appointment for an unexpired term ending on June 30th of 2020. There are 3 members on the board that typically meet on the 3rd Monday of the month. And as it stands now, we have 3 males currently serving. Moving on to the regular agenda. First is the consideration of a resolution specifying a special assessment against private property for sidewalk replacement that was done by the city in accordance with Section 12.12 of the City Code. It's the time for opening a public hearing to levy that special assessment against private property for sidewalk replacement, and there's an exhibit that has the properties listed. I believe there's 5 of them. It was published. Certified notices were sent and notice was published in the Oskaloosa Herald. And so if this is approved, the property owners have 30 days to pay for sidewalk replacement in the city clerk's office. After 30 days, it's assessed to their property taxes with a payment schedule of 9% interest. So I'll open the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone who would care to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion supporting the special assessment?
So moved.
Any discussion?
I just have a question to make sure I'm clear. Before we took on the repairs, they were given notice that they needed to repair and time to do the repairs and so forth, and then when that didn't happen, then we as a city went and did the repairs. Is that how the process works?
Yes, sir.
To hire their own contractor, right, or do it some way?
Yeah. Follow what's laid out.
That's a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we bid it out. We used a couple of contractors this year. I think next year we'll try to get them all under 1 contractor just so it's easier for us to process. Hopefully individuals will do this on their own. As I mentioned to the mayor earlier tonight, I think there were 82 property owners that were contacted through this process. So to have 5, well, there'll be a few more going
Yeah.
forward.
A couple
And
more.
actually, 2 of these were paid after the agenda came out, so those bottom 2 have been removed from this exhibit.
Okay.
But the majority of the people must have taken care of the repairs themselves? then?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Walling,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Calgery.
Yes.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Versteg.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Moving on to item B. This is consider an ordinance to amend the Code of Oskaloosa by amending provisions pertaining to Title 17 having to do with zoning, Chapter 17.24, the Supplemental Site Development Regulations, and Chapter 17.32, which is a non-conforming development, parts of the City of Oskaloosa zoning ordinance regarding non-conforming residential development and discontinued non-conforming developments. Description we're working with here, the Public Works Department staff received a request from the Board of Realtors to update the zoning code regarding non-conforming residential development. The Board of Realtors indicated that the non-conforming single-family and two-family residential structures are restricting the sale of properties within Oskaloosa. The existing zoning regulations do not permit a single-family residential development in most commercial and industrial zoning districts. These non-conforming residential structures cannot be enlarged or altered. These non-conforming residential structures also cannot be reconstructed if the structure is destroyed by any means to an extent of up to 60% or more of its replacement cost. The proposed code updates include, but are not limited to, the following, which is to revise code sections 17.24.020 and 17.32.030 to permit reconstruction of existing single and two-family non-conforming structures in all zoning districts. This will bring all non-conforming single and two-family structures into compliance, and this option would only be valid if an approved building permit is obtained within 6 months of destruction and pursued to completion. And the second bullet point here, it also introduces a new code section for discontinued non-conforming developments. In the event that a non-conforming use of any building or premises is discontinued, or its normal operation stopped for a period of 1 year, then the property will be required to conform to the existing zoning code regulations. Planning and Zoning Commission considered this item at their December 8, 2014 meeting, recommending by a vote of 7-0 that the City Council approve the ordinance amendments regarding the non-conforming residential development. So I'll open the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone who would care to speak to this? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion of support?
So move. Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Couple of questions. When it says on the second bullet point there, building is, or structure is discontinued, if a house set vacant for a year and it was for sale, would that be considered where it would all of a sudden not be, whatever it says, conforming?
I guess I would think, or I would be of mind, if they're actively trying to sell the place, that's one thing. I don't think that's different than, obviously, if you abandon it and simply leave it sitting there.
Would that be with any structure? With non-conforming?
On the time frames, do you mean, or that?
Yeah, on the time frame.
Like that generally. The provisions here, obviously this is geared, you're seeing this in the first one towards single and two-family non-conforming uses. The other speaks of any building in the second bullet point. It's not limited to dwellings on that.
I may add, this exception, there's exceptions for single and two-family structures. So even if it's sitting, if residential structures are sitting, they can be rebuilt. But this non-conformance, discontinued non-conformance is primarily for commercial structures, which is sitting more than, I believe, 1 year or 6 months, 1 year, then you cannot rebuild on that site.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be helpful to describe what's actively trying to sell? I mean, we've had that question on some properties. Like, there's no for sale sign, So is it for sale or isn't it? Discussion.
It's obviously a legitimate point. I suppose what you run into, as you many times do in the law, it's, for example, when you say somebody needs to exercise reasonable care, and you say, well, what is reasonable care? And a lot of that depends upon all the facts that come into play. I mean, it's in theory possible, I think, to go through and spell it out in great detail, but sometimes I think that becomes counterproductive if you try to spell out the detail to that extent.
Other thoughts or comments? Roll call, please.
Yates?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Versteeg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
We have a lot of black stuff on there.
Yeah. This solves a very large problem. There's literally thousands of houses affected by this. Okay, moving on. Item C, consider a resolution adopting a policy formalizing the continued use of complete streets design concepts having to do with future city improvement projects. The City of Oskaloosa is working to formalize the process of street design by continuing use of complete streets design concepts throughout the complete streets policy. This allows staff to determine the best streets and roads for complete street design concepts. Implementation of the complete streets policy will guide the process of planning, funding, design, construction, operation, and maintenance of all new and modified streets in the City of Oskaloosa. The City of Oskaloosa partnered with Oskaloosa Blue Zones to bring in a consultant that provided a workshop and presentation on complete streets for the City Council, City staff, and community members. This item was presented and discussed at the December 15 City Council meeting, and at the December 8, 2014 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the resolution by a vote of 5-2. Complete streets are considered a best practice for infrastructure improvements, and it will assist the community in its efforts to become a certified Blue Zones community. Do we have a motion of support? Okay, discussion.
Yeah, I certainly don't want it to paint ourselves in a corner with this resolution as this is going to be, this is it, and this is how it goes. I mean, just, that's not, we need to be able to see stuff beforehand, and not just this council, but future councils. We don't want to tie them up as well, so. I hate to see curbs sticking out in residential areas where they protrude out into the street itself. Mostly the biggest concern.
What was that last comment, Tom? About the what?
Where like a complete streets uptown here, you know, that's a different deal because it's a different scenario. And that's fine. But when we get out into the residential streets, we don't have those curbs sticking out there where we have to work around them. Where the city street department doesn't have to work around them to remove snow or do any other maintenance issues.
In a broad sense, I'm definitely for things like streetscape, sidewalks, bike lanes. But in the smaller sense, then as we've had some discussion, as we walk through this for transparency, I'd like to see where that is broke out so you see it. The public sees it, we see it. You know, I just, you know, maybe someday that won't be necessary, but to see some idea of what it is. I mean, we're going to do it in the design concept. That's right. And Mike says there'll still be discussion at that point, right, Mike? Yeah.
So we'll be seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's the case.
Yes, but we're also going to be paying engineers to do the design initially and then come to us for a vote. Is that correct?
I think that's probably the one fallback, that you have to pay that money up front.
Yeah, I mean, it's partially right. Because you read through it, the exceptions in here to the complete streets where it says, okay, if there's a significant topographical or natural resource constraint, or if there's insufficient right-of-way to safely accommodate them, if there's a high safety risk, or if, I guess the one that caught my attention, if you can document there's an absence of use by all except motorized users now and would be in the future, you don't even bother to design it in. Right. So there are some stops in there that say to the engineer, you don't even bother starting down this road because it's not going to be feasible.
Well, like Jim, as you just mentioned about the curbs coming out, there's parts in this city that's not applicable because the streets are way too narrow as it is.
That's exactly why he said what he said.
Right, that's just, so that would not be applicable to him.
Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't even be put in to begin with.
Hopefully that's the case.
Because all this is just our,
We've seen how things go, and when you have a resolution that says that this is it, in stone, right. That's what happens, and I'd hate to see that happen. I know the last meeting we had that same discussion that said the concept should be brought to us beforehand, before design starts, but the concept is what we need to see before design starts, to see if they're going to throw those curbs in there or not, bike lanes or not, painted bike lanes or not, whichever that happens to be, and let the councils know at that point what's going on.
You also got to remember that 20% figure down there. That's a pretty high figure. If you've got $1 million project, 20% is $200,000.
No, it's
50.
For $1 million project, for 20%?
20%, yeah, you're right.
$200,000. That's a lot of money. So if they come to me and say it's going to cost $1 million, because with the bike lanes in there, but the bike lanes is only going to cost you $200,000, so it's within that $20,000 bracket. They're trying to sell it to me.
Well, that's what I was trying to say. We ought to see those numbers, even if it's within the 20%, but we ought to see those numbers as we're learning the process.
So, Tom, you feel like you need to see them even if they're less than 20% is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Well, I think
as a transparency, a learning process to see, you're all talking, in a business, 20% is a lot. If I'm 20% high in a bid, I don't usually expect to get it. Okay, so you're looking at that 20%, but the mayor said earlier, he said something about, if it's a value, it's worth the 20%.
Right. It is.
So that's
it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not stymieing anything. I'm just saying I think we owe it to watch how this does progress, and Michael will be our watchdog.
Yeah, I guess
and
from
Achilles.
a design concept, I would anticipate our staff would guide the engineer. I don't know that personally, I don't need to see it brought back to me every time, but I would hope that our staff would look at each individual process or project and help guide the engineer on whether or not it should be done. Now, if after we do a couple of these and every one of them is coming in high and we learn through it as Tom Walling suggested, then maybe we got to give different direction, but I would expect that to be our internal city staff team to guide the engineer on how they want a project to go.
Well put. We don't want to micromanage it.
No.
But we do want to know for the public, how it is. What are we getting for it?
But staff by resolution is going to proceed this way.
Yes.
Right, these are the guiding
That's what I'm
principles
saying.
that we're saying.
Yeah,
They're gonna be
well-
I
considering
understand that
these
too,
things.
but by resolution, they're going to move ahead, and that's without somebody trying to rein them in, so to speak. Let's put it that way. How we can do that?
Like it's the way I look at it is if we see the staff is not performing the way we want them to perform, we can always pass another resolution.
Yeah.
I understand that. I would hope. I understand that as well, but
Other comments or questions?
I just have reservations how that's written, to proceed ahead with that.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Callegeri?
Yes.
Jimenez?
No.
Moore?
Yes.
Versteeg?
No.
Walling?
No.
Yates?
Yes.
Okay, it's a tie at 3-3. And pushes it on to the next meeting. Okay, item D. Let's consider a resolution for preliminary approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, estimated cost, ordering publication of notice of hearing, notice to bidders, and setting a public hearing on February 17 of 2015 for the E Avenue East and North 12th Street reconstruction project, and authorizing to receive and open bids and publicly announce the results on February 10th of 2015. Staff has prepared plans and specifications for the E Avenue East and North 12th Street reconstruction project. Folks who ask about this, that's on the way to the hospital off of North 11th, if you're trying to get that in your mind. This item allows staff to proceed with scheduling a public hearing on plans and specs and a bid letting date for the project. The scope of the project includes new concrete pavement with curb and gutter, ADA, sidewalk and ramps, storm sewer improvements, driveway replacement along E Avenue East, from North 11th Street over to North 12th Street, and then from North 12th Street from E Avenue East to F Avenue East. Preliminary engineering cost estimate for the project, $367,950. If the project is awarded, construction is proposed to commence in April of this year. The anticipated work completion time is 50 working days. Bids be received and opened on Tuesday, February 10th at 10:30 a.m. and presented to City Council for a public hearing on Tuesday, February 17th of 2015. Staff is recommending approval of this item as presented and approved of the resolution scheduling a public hearing for February 17. Do we have a motion supporting this?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mayor David, what did you say that total was?
$367,950. That was revised.
Oh, okay. I understand the correction. All righty. I didn't correct it here.
Achilles, are there sidewalks on both sides? I mean, there's no sidewalks there now, but we're putting them in front of the houses and then over on the parking lot of the hospital.
Any other questions or comments? Or would you like a little bit more time to look at it? Which, by the way, that's some pretty fine print that these guys are looking at. Is there any way to make this a little bit easier to read, a little bit larger? Okay.
We'll change that for next time.
Okay.
Oh, that was about impossible.
And as I understand it, the resident on the north side, those people were asked, or were notified of the sidewalk being added. Was there any complaints on the sidewalk?
We had a public meeting. Some of them were, I would say, they were opposed to the sidewalk. I mean, so we informed them the benefits of having a sidewalk. They were concerned about the maintenance and snow removal. So.
And what?
There was snow removal and
Okay.
maintenance of the sidewalk. They were.
But we didn't see that survey.
There was no
There was no
survey. It was
survey.
just what we do with all these road projects is we have public meetings. Everybody's invited who lives in the area or would be impacted by it. We've done that for 3rd. We've done that for South 11th. Just about every project, South 7th. And this was one of those meetings, and the staff reviews the project with the residents. Here's what we're looking at doing. Do you have any concerns, questions, feedback? This particular time, it was concerns about adding sidewalks, which is not unexpected. These sidewalks are not being assessed to the property owners, which could be done. The curb and gutter are not being assessed to the property owners, which could be done. So in this instance, the city is providing all the amenities without any of the assessments.
So are you saying they were satisfied with that?
No.
No.
No, I mean, they were informed of this meeting here, city council meeting. They also know about the public hearing, which will be held on February.
Right. Okay.
I would
So,
expect to see residents show up to that.
Yeah, I do too.
There's curb and gutter there
And
now
we're paying
on that
for
street.
it. They don't want to clear that
On
sidewalk.
the north side,
north side.
there's not.
Okay.
You know, some of those people live there.
North side, there's
for
not.
years, They've never scooped in their life.
Yeah.
Why start now?
I
Yeah,
thought there was, but,
we should assess them
okay.
Not on the north side.
That
and
doesn't
make them pay and then back.
really have no
off at the
consequence. You
last
tear it all out
minute.
and we start over. so.
It's a seal coat road.
Yeah.
It's a simple.
They dropped the ball many years ago. Started doing that.
Well, the south side doesn't affect, it's all new now, or
Yeah.
once he tears that house in the corner down. But on the north side, there's four residences there.
Chad, are you going to put new mains through there at that same time?
The water department will install new main on E between 11th and 12th. And the hospital installed new main in 2009. And
Yeah.
so along North 12th, we're going to hook services up to that main that was installed then. We've got a 6-inch main that's there now that lies in the area where a new storm sewer needs to go in. So we will complete that work ahead of this taking place so that we can abandon that section of 6-inch main.
Sure. Very good.
Now, keep in mind, there's also, not only just on E, we're talking about on 12th, there'll also be sidewalks there. So it's not just the 4 properties.
Did you find out if that house was going to be removed by then?
You mean the one at the corner?
Jan Maris house, the old
Yeah.
one on the corner there.
Corner of, I thought it's going to be removed by the hospital.
Yeah.
For the project.
They've acquired it, and they're going to demo it.
It's going to be gone time that's,
They're just tearing it down.
Yeah, we had a conversation with the hospital about, is there any need for additional right-of-way or anything like that? We're good.
okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes,
Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Caligiuri?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Takes us to the end of the meeting here. Reports on items from city staff, city manager, anything?
Mayor, council, I guess I would say, based on the tie vote that we had on the last, the item before, I'd be interested in hearing from the no votes, not necessarily right now, but before the next meeting, if there's something that you'd like to see in the policy that would change your no to a yes, since that wasn't discussed at all. So if there's some type of compromise that could be reached that apparently is missing from the policy, we'd like to see that feedback as staff.
Okay.
You know what mine is, or do you want me to meet with you again? That's what I said. I mean, I've said it both meetings, so I can say it again. Okay.
I guess I didn't hear it.
Okay.
I'd like to hear it if you wouldn't mind sharing it, sure.
So I'll get with you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And if anybody wants to say it, they can.
Yeah, you mentioned you've set up both meetings.
Well, I've been talking about it. I'd like to see that broke out, and I think the way this works, you have to probably put that into this document that says that's going to be broke out. Not micromanaging, but just to break it out, so we see what those costs for those new items. I said earlier tonight, I mean, I think we're over sidewalks. We're all pretty uniform on sidewalks, not completely, but now there's bike lanes. So it just so I and the public understand, what we're doing. I mean, how do I know if I've got this 20% to spend all the time? I mean, when you get to budgets, I realize you aren't gonna pass a project we don't have money for, so that that's accountable. But that's sometimes that's how things grow, if you just blanket it. And I'm sure Mike.
And mine's the same too, it's the same, it's just a concept issue, and let us see that and make sure that we know what we're doing, and make sure that the public knows what we're doing. And we don't want to spend extra money for no particular reason that's not going to be part of that. Now, against sidewalks? No, we're not against sidewalks at all. We're bike lanes, but they don't need to be, let's say, in the way of everything else that's happening. But it's just a concept issue, and we need to see that out. I'm just with Tom, we need to see it, what's going on for certain.
I agree 100%. I'd like to see
It needs to be written down
the
so that
word
we
bike
do
lane
see it.
taken out of there myself, but that's not going to happen, I realize that.
What's that?
I said, I'd like to see the words bike lane taken clear out of there myself, because most of our residential streets, to put bike lanes in and do it right, you're going to have to widen the streets. And that's going to far surpass the 20%.
Well, and I don't know that that's the case.
Well, just painting a white line on the street and saying this is a bike lane, that's not going to work. I don't think bikes are a problem in this town. They never have been, I don't think they ever will be.
We don't need to go around town painting bike lanes, so you don't need bike lanes.
No. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Residential areas.
Well,
anyway,
that's exactly what's
There is
what's
a
in there.
fairly good movement to try to get bike flow in town
That's right.
more effective, efficient for people.
Agreed, but you don't need to have paint lines everywhere in order to do that.
Not everywhere. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Just where it's needed.
All right.
Thank you for the feedback.
But we need to have it
There's a committee working on
written
that.
in the resolution so that it does come out.
Anything else, City Manager?
No, sir.
City Clerk, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, City Attorney, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, moving on then. City Council members, we'll start with you, Tom. Anything to add?
Have we heard anything about, it slips my mind what the development is west of town on the lake? Have we heard anything about that?
Yes, we have received payment from Mahaska Rural Water.
Okay.
So I'm satisfied with that. We have to work out some of the detail on monthly billing still.
Okay, but it's proceeding.
Yes.
Good.
Happy
Good
with the
job.
response now.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, Doug?
Nothing, sir.
Okay, Tom?
Nothing, sir, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Joe? Okay. One last reminder, we do have a snow emergency declaration effective midnight tonight. Get those cars off the street, and it's effective until further notice. So, with that in mind, do we have well, thanks everybody for being here. I don't know how many inches of snow we've got so far, but we can only hope that it'll have sub-zero temperatures to follow and make it thoroughly miserable. Yeah. Yeah, something to brag about. We have a motion for adjournment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.